What's going on, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing the build on this 1/14 scale beast. If you don't already know, it's being built to withstand around 200 pounds of payload capacity. Today what we're going to be doing is building and installing the rear axles, building and installing part of the front axle, and we're also going to be figuring out how we can stiffen up these tires a little bit more than they already are. Let's get started on building the rear axles. So first of all, what we need to do is drill holes in the ends of these rods. That's how the wheels are going to bolt onto the truck. Alright, the holes in the axles are drilled. It's time to run a tap through them. So this is what the rear axles look like. We're going to go ahead and drill and tap 4 more holes at each corner here. Since these axles are the rear axles, obviously they're the drive axles, so this screw right here is just to hold the wheel on. This screw is actually to drive the drive shaft. Alright, so the drive axles are drilled, tapped, and have screws in them at all 4 corners. It's time to install these axles and put the wheels on. And then that way we can get the height for the front axle and start building it. As you could see from the time lapse, we started working on the front axle. What we're going to do now is drill and tap these holes. This is what our front axle looks like so far. Looks pretty good. Next, it's time to finish up the front suspension. So the front suspension is completely done. Here's what it looks like. You can see it looks pretty good, other than there's a little bit of rust on it. I used some water to cool it off a couple hours ago, so not a big deal. We're gonna be putting rusty metal primer on here anyways. So the last thing we're gonna do today is figure out how to stiffen these tires up a little bit. So real quick, let me explain what my thoughts are for stiffening up these tires. So to begin with, these tires are already fairly stiff. Now with the 200-pound payload capacity, they're going to need to be a lot stiffer than what they already are. That's where this stuff comes in. So this is a 2-part epoxy. Now there's a couple reasons I chose this stuff. One of the reasons is that the 2-part epoxy shouldn't need oxygen to fully cure. We are going to do a little experiment, make sure this stuff fully cures before we go ahead and put it in the tires on the truck. The second reason is that this specific epoxy dries up to be somewhat rubbery. So it'll be perfect for these tires. We still want the tires to be able to flex a little bit. So the plan is, first of all, to do a little experiment with this stuff. If the experiment goes good, what we're gonna do is drill a little hole in the top of the tire, and we're gonna fill it up with the epoxy. And that's basically how we're gonna stiffen the tires up on this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and mix the epoxy up and set up our experiment. Alright, so our cap is completely full of our epoxy. So now what we're going to do to simulate the epoxy being in the tire is putting another cap on this. And what this is going to do is basically more or less make it airtight. Next week we're going to cut it open and see whether or not the stuff is rubbery and whether or not it has all dried. If everything works, obviously we're going to use this stuff inside the tires. Alright, so that's going to wrap this video up. All of the other build videos will be linked down below in the description box. Be sure to check them out if you haven't yet. New videos are coming out every Monday, so check back on Mondays. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.